This image, taken by the White House in the College Board provided stimulus, the Luis Cabal, a small measure of justice, shows Luis Cabal shaking hands with President Obama after fighting 10 plus years for better socioeconomic opportunities for Native Americans. Previously, this fight was often met with rejection and often dismissed as unimportant. However, after the Obama administration took over, the government underwent a reformation providing better socioeconomic opportunities for Native Americans. This is demonstrated by the extent to which people in democratic countries, such as the United States, take to which to form their own government in accordance to their own needs. However, in undemocratic countries, such as North Korea, formerly the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, this type of reformation is not possible. Instead, the government reforms based on its own needs, not the needs of its people. Attempts at reformations, such as protest strikes or pledges, are often met with extreme government backlash, in which military intervention is most common. Intense propaganda is also used to deter the people from resisting governmental control, and also used to influence the people by making the belief that revolting against the government is a revolt against their own people. But with this talk about democratic and non-democratic countries, this has led to my topic today. Good morning, my name is Jacques Jamon, and this is the socioeconomic impact of the DPRK's militarization and intense propaganda usage. This raises the question, however, to what extent has the increased authoritarian regime of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea impacted the country's socioeconomic status within the past 3 decades? I argue that currently, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's military and persuasive propaganda have negatively impacted the socioeconomic status of the state by stunting economic growth while contributing to the widespread poverty that plagues the nation. Firstly, regarding the military, as stated by Anthony Korsman in the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the DPRK's constant emphasis on regime security, building up military forces, using these forces to make military threats and carry out politically driven low-level attacks, and creating growing missile and nuclear capabilities have all combined to drive the shape of Korean balance and have done so for decades. The prioritization of military buildup over economic development has clearly hamstrung the DPRK's economy. This, combined with the lack of agricultural reformation, has also taken a significant toll on the economy. Any attempts at reforming the government are often met with low-level political attacks, in which makes people unable to request certain technologies or increase funding in fear of government backlash. This fear of backlash is also present as the DPRK regularly hosts military parades to show off its military might. In these parades, it's common for new tank models such as this, or thousands of riflemen or missile truck to roam through the streets of many popular cities such as Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, in order to drive up public support for the military. This image also demonstrates to that extent, as the Korean Central News Agency showcases this image in which North Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un is seen saluting a tank man at a tankman's training match. This constant buildup of the military has also fueled nationalistic ideals within North Korean society, preventing any citizen from rebelling against the government. This phenomenon is also seen in this image by Jay Corrado in Foreign Affairs, in which we see 2 propaganda posters in central Pyongyang. As the poster on the left, it roughly translates to, "Let's embody it, the traditional beautiful win of military-civilian unity following the demand of Park Geun-hye's Songan, military first, policy." And the poster on the right, roughly translating to, "The single-hearted unity is centered on the revolutionary leadership is the fundamental core and strongest weapon of the Songan, military first, revolution. Loyalty is the only path." Both posters are a clear example of how the DPRK's commitment to persuade the people to support the government's effort show how the combined use of the military and propaganda demonstrate the government's inexplicable grasp on civilians, preventing any forms of revolution. These 2 factors take an important role in North Korean economics, as shown here. A report conducted by the Nautilus Institute found that in 2014, 30% of all national budget spending was spent towards national defense, or the military, with 36% being spent towards cultural construction, or propaganda. This leaves little to no funding towards the economic construction, and only 20% is spent towards maintaining the various agricultural and manufacturing sectors across the state. This prioritization of military buildup and maintaining the firm grasp on the people has left the economy in shambles, which is seen in this data table by Alexander Kravets in the North Korean Review. By analyzing this data table, we can see that the over-reliance on foreign countries shows the negative impact on the state itself. For instance, in 2020, it was estimated that North Korea imported over 2.5 million goods from China while only exporting over 190,000. In importing more than exporting, the North Korean economy is not self-sufficient, having to rely on imports from other countries in order to sustain itself. The prioritization of maintaining military control over the people has left the DPRK's economy in dismay, as many farmers and workers do not have the sufficient amount of funding needed in order to sustain the economy. This has left many farmers in mass poverty in which they can only dream of basic necessities such as food or water. So, although the regime's command has enabled certain economic developments to arise, such as Jangmangdang, it ultimately is not sufficient enough to counteract the devastating effects of the DPRK's militarization and propaganda have on the economy. Although Jangmangdang, the North Korean markets, could show room for economic improvement within the state, it is ultimately countered by the fact that the DPRK's militarization seizes and controls a lot of goods that circulate throughout these markets, as well as intense propaganda is used that views Jangmangdang as resistance to regime control and punishes those who participate in these markets. The everlasting effects of the DPRK's authoritarian regime are that the regime's rule over the state has therefore stunted any forms of economic upbringing and has ultimately destroyed any forms of economic prosperity through the military and propaganda, hindering economic development. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, two. First question, sorry. What information did you need to gather before you started this, and then how'd that help as you worked your way through it?
So in order to start this research question, I needed some information that regarded how exactly the strict authoritarian regime plays on the economics. So I had to research on how the authoritarian regime, particularly the military and propaganda, have an effect on how much money is being circulated throughout the government.
Okay. And what additional questions kind of popped up as you were working your way?
Some additional questions that popped up is that I wondered how Jangmangdang could show room for economic improvement, as although the most of the state is in severe poverty, Jangmangdang could show improvement for economics, and I attributed this in my presentation by providing a solid limitation towards my resolution, and I countered that solution.